Okay, hi there everybody. This is a reading from a short story by Saki called Mrs. Packletide's Tiger, and the reading's by Asha. And in this reading, she's put on a really posh voice. So let's hear it and let's see what I have to say about it.
Circumstances proved propitious.
I love that, circumstances. You really hit that A very hard, and that makes it very posh. Fine first sentence, and continue.
Mrs. Packletide had offered 1,000 rupees for the opportunity of shooting a tiger without overmuch risk or exertion.
Okay, I hear you've slowed this down quite a lot, although the delivery's a little bit monotonous. Yeah, you need to change the speed a little. Okay, you've gone strongly on that word opportunity, which is quite good. Let me just try this. Mrs. Packletide had offered 1,000 rupees for the opportunity of shooting a tiger without overmuch risk or exertion. Let's go on.
And it so happened that a neighbouring village could boast of being the favoured rendezvous of an animal of respectable antecedents.
Okay, so again, it's a little less monotonous here. I appreciate the slowing down, but it needs contrast with speeding up, and it also needs some pauses. If you put some pauses into it, it would sound a lot better. Let's see. And so it happened that a neighbouring village could boast of being the favoured rendezvous for an animal of respectable antecedents. I also really like the way you hit and rolled that R with rendezvous. It made it sound really good and incredibly posh.
Which had been driven by the increasing infirmities of age to abandon game killing and confine its appetite to the smaller domestic animals.
Okay, this is better. You've got more pauses here. You still need a few more. Which had been driven by the increasing infirmities of age to abandon game killing, as you put it. I like the stress on game. And confine its appetite to the smaller domestic animals.
The prospect of earning the 1,000 rupees had stimulated the sporting and commercial instinct of the villagers.
Okay, that sounded quite good. The prospect of earning the 1,000 rupees had stimulated the sporting and commercial instinct of the villagers. Okay, that had a little bit more life to it. I'm still looking for more pauses from you, okay, and more variation of speed. I like the way the general speed is nice and slow, but you need to speed up in some bits as well. Yeah. Okay, let me continue.
Children were posted night and day on the outskirts of the local jungle to head the tiger back in the unlikely event of his attempting to roam away to fresh hunting grounds.
Okay, the W in a way, it certainly wavered a little bit. You could do better. Away. Okay, let's see. Children were posted night and day on the outskirts of the local jungle to head the tiger back in the unlikely event of his attempting to roam away to fresh hunting grounds. Okay, so it needs a bit more intonation. It needs to sound more like you're saying it, you're talking to someone. Okay, and continue. but very in this reading, you've really turned turned up the posh to maximum, and it sounds really good. I also like the way you are trying to pronounce every syllable of every word, and that in itself, that lends itself to sounding much posher as well.
And the cheaper kinds of gifts were left about with elaborate carelessness to keep him satisfied with his present quarters.
Okay, that was better. I like the pause after carelessness, but I'm still looking for more pauses. And the cheaper kinds of goats were left about with elaborate carelessness to keep him satisfied with his present quarters. And continue.
The one great anxiety was lest he should die of old age before the date appointed for the memsahib's shoot.
Lovely. Okay, this you did very nicely. The one great anxiety was lest he should die of old age before the date appointed for the memsahib's shoot. Okay, so you sound really posh in this. Is very good. And
Mothers carrying their babies home through the jungle after the day's work in the fields hushed their singing, lest they might curtail the restful sleep of the venerable herd robber.
okay, this was much, much, much better. I love the emphasis on curtail, sleep, venerable, herd robber. And that came out much better. Mothers carrying their babies home through the jungle after the day's work in the fields hushed their singing, lest they might curtail the restful sleep of the venerable herd robber. And continue.
The great night duly arrived, moonlit and cloudless.
Good. The great night duly arrived, moonlit and cloudless. Okay, that was fine.
A platform had been constructed in a comfortable and conveniently placed tree, and thereon crouched Mrs. Packletide and her paid companion, Miss Mebbin.
The great night duly arrived. This was very good. The great night duly arrived, moonlit and cloudless. A platform had been constructed in a comfortable and conveniently placed tree, and thereon crouched Mrs. Packletide and her paid companion, Miss Mebbin.
A goat, gifted with a particularly persistent bleat, such as even a partially deaf tiger might be reasonably expected to hear on a still night, was tethered at the correct distance.
Good. A goat. Yes, you're putting much more emphasis on it now. You've got over the initial bit. I've noted normally when you start a reading, it's more iffy, but then when you get into it, you get much better. A goat gifted with a particularly persistent bleat, such as even a partially deaf tiger might be reasonably expected to hear on a still night, was tethered at the correct distance. And
with an accurately sighted rifle and a thumbnail pack of patience cards, the sportswoman awaited the coming of the quarry.
This is much better. With an accurately sighted rifle and a thumbnail pack of patience cards, the sportswoman awaited the coming of the quarry.
I suppose we are in some danger, said Miss Mebbin.
I suppose we are in some danger, said Miss Mebbin. I like this because you haven't really made it a question, although you put a bit of emphasis on it. But it's grammatically, it's certainly not a question.
She was not actually nervous about the wild beast.
That's very nice. She was not actually nervous, quite fast, about the wild beast, slower.
But she had a morbid dread of performing an atom more service than she had been paid for.
Yes, I like that space after service. But she had a morbid dread of performing an atom more service than she had been paid for.
Nonsense, said Mrs. Packletide. It's a very old tiger.
That was really, really, really good. I love the nonsense, and you're playing with the word old.
It couldn't spring up here even if it wanted to.
Yes, I love that here, that sounds so posh. And if it wanted to, sounds very good as well.
If it's an old tiger, I think you ought to get it cheaper. 1,000 rupees is a lot of money.
That's very good, that's very good. If it's an old tiger, I think you ought to get it cheaper. 1,000 rupees is a lot of money. Okay, this was a very good reading. You've done it very nicely. Well done, Ash. You should be very proud of being able to read like that. So, bye for now.